So here we go again, number 66, the Darkness to Light Godcast. Welcome back if you're joining me again. Me, Jim McFadyen, in the Vortex Centre for Wellbeing. And this one, number 66, is going to be a follow-up, or a follow-on, or an expansion of last week. Number 65 was basically, what is this? What am I doing? What is the Vortex? What's the work? What's the intention with it? How did I come to be doing this? Why am I qualified? How do people benefit? What is my story? What's my journey? All that kind of stuff. It's a great one for anybody who's coming in, and because again, as I mentioned last week, and asked all the time, what is it you actually do? What is the work? How does it go together? What's involved in it? How do I get involved? All that kind of stuff. So for anybody that's coming in fresh, that's a great one to watch. It's a great one for anybody who's already known about it to pass on. For those that are asking you, what it is you're actually doing. So it's a great one that rather than everybody try and, their take on it and try to explain what it is I'm doing every now and again, I find myself, and again, I think it's important because I'm at a different bit and it's always expanding. So there's the new bit with it just now, the stuff that's coming through and where I'm at, then the Vortex is evolving, the work's evolving, the program's evolving all the time. So it's important to right, okay, what is it now? Because it was very different, even going back a year and a half ago, never mind going back 4, 5, 6 years, which some people, a lot of people in fact, maybe it might have been a few years since the last time they were here. So it's interesting, for me to watch the evolution of it, but also to document, and that's why that video last week, this is October 2025, so important to document where I'm at there and then we'll see how it evolves going forward. So this one, who is this? Who's it for? When you know what it is, then who is it for? And that's really, I've always believed it's for everybody. I've always believed that the tools and the techniques, and this is where when you understand the whole range of the stuff that we're doing, then it really benefits anybody who is trying to better themselves or looking for whatever it is, relief or healing or whatever part of the journey they're at. But very importantly, there's a bit to that goes with there's a timing for everybody. Because right here and right now, although it would benefit everybody. I remember way back 2015, this would have been, and I was talking about opening the Vortex. This building was lying empty, and I was looking for something to do with it and didn't know what I was going to do with it. And at the time, I'd kind of got it for myself. I'd experienced enlightenment, I do believe, in meditation. I had been on it for a long time. That would be over 20 years I've been doing the work. And a good friend of mine, we were on holiday, he was on a cycling holiday and I was away with my family, kind of met up, we were on the beach, we were having a blather at night time, and I was talking about my dreams and what I'd like to do with this work and the people that I intended to help with it, and where I was at with it, and just really exciting and enthusiastic, and really kind of buzzing to get back. This would have been springtime, probably 2015, maybe even 2014, and what he said was like, everybody benefits from it. It's going to help everybody, but who's actually going to get on about it? It was always going to. It was really right at the very beginning. It was almost like a wee bit of spanner in the works, because when you probably at the time, the way that I felt and how in alignment and just absolutely flying I was at certain points during that period. The desire was for everybody, to get that, and that first wave when you catch it, when you're absolutely, you'd never felt like in your life, and you've been where I had been. Then the desire is to take that to the world, and that's still the desire, but it's definitely when it's fresh and it's new and it's exciting and it's the light that when it comes through, when you get a massive shift like I did, then the desire to give it to everybody. And then when you hear something like not that many people are probably going to get on about it, which is what he was saying, and I kind of, they softened the blow, I suppose, and he was right, he really was, and I understand that now more than ever, in terms of the people and what it takes for somebody to come in and experience the work, but then we've had long enough now to take almost like a health check and see how it's going, and see the ones that are here just now, the ones that have been in it long term. Some people have been on about this since it opened, professionally, 2016. A couple have been there since before that, just been on the same kind of, been watching my journey as friends and going through it. There's maybe 2 or 3 people like that, my wife included. But for most people, since the Vortex opened 2016, the ones that have got to run about it, probably since just after that, 2017, 2018, it's been fascinating to watch, and seeing the ones that are still running about it. And then when you think back to all the ones that didn't stick around, and why that is, then this is again, these are good questions. Who is it for? Is it for you? What would be the benefit for you getting in about it, and how do you know if this is going to be the right thing for you? So who attracts is very varied, and that's changed over the years as well. At this moment in time, and this is where the two bits to the work that I do, there's the dealing with the physical stuff, and which would apply to anybody who's suffering from the anxieties, depression, the kind of life challenges getting in the way, people that are ill, suffering from disease, people who are a lot of people broken, a lot of people being taken out by this world, and the challenges they're faced in their life, whether it's traumas or name it, the addictions. It's every single bit. I see every single thing within this work. And for people who are, a lot of the time, it's somebody who's at a point where they've normally tried a lot of other things. So they've been through the therapies, or they've been through the doctors, or been down the road of the medication, whether it's anti-psychs or antidepressants. And they're in a place where they've lost faith in it, or they don't believe in it, or they've seen through it, or the results in terms of what's been manifesting in their life, what they've been, their life experience they've been getting as a result of the path they've been on. They realise it isn't working. Many times, you hear people coming in and they've been speaking about, to a therapist every week or once a month for the last 5 years, and they're telling the same story every week, and they're reliving the same traumas, and they're wondering why it's not getting better. In fact, it's getting worse. And it reaches a certain point and they go, there must be a different way of doing this, so there's all different. It depends on, as always with this, what do you need? Depends on what you actually need from this work. It'll depending on, if it is for you, and then what you get from it, so the basic stuff, dealing with that kind of stuff, the tools and the techniques, which is where the Vortex at the time came onto the market. When the centre opened, it was very much breath work, managing the nervous system, relaxation, meditation. I've always kind of fed that in, even with and I laugh about this, the bigger groups that I used to do, some of the huge groups right at the beginning, sometimes there'd be over 200 people in it, put people in the cold, open, free events where people would come up and you would take them through breath work and take them through the Wim Hof method. Mostly at the time, it was a wee bit of other stuff I was already doing myself, but in terms of the breath work and managing and resetting the nervous system and switching off the heat and dumping in the stress, all that stuff was based on the Wim Hof method. And then I would feed people into, guide them into deep relaxation once I understood and learned about the nervous system and the benefits I was experiencing, experiencing complete peace of mind and the nervous system being switched off for the first time in my life, with the breath work and cold exposure. Once I understood how that went together, then it was really easy to guide people and get them to the part that was, the most important part for me, even then, because I'd experienced, the real, the higher states in the meditation practice, that enlightened state that I'd been through, and all the benefits I'd got from that. I was already, even then, guiding people. It was all leading towards the meditation and the reconnection and the reunion and enlightenment for people to remember that and reconnect back to the divinity that they carry inside of them. That's where it was going. I just wasn't talking about it the way that I've done over the last probably couple of years, where I became, now it doesn't matter. It's like full God. This is what I'm now doing. And interestingly enough, the focus now, somebody actually referred to me last week as being the cold water guy, because I was one of the first people, not just in Scotland, but the world, when I got into it and I was teaching it, and I trained under Wim. 2017, I was already chucking huge numbers into the cold water and doing breathworks, and every single week, free classes, free stuff. I wasn't really charging money at all back then. I was just helping people. So it's interesting, somebody came in last week and they referred to me as they're trying to get somebody to come up and get into the cold, get me to get them into the cold, and because that's what they came in as. They remember me as being the cold water, ice baths and all that kind of stuff. And it's really amazing how far, again, as I said at the beginning, how much it's changed. And it's not an evolution, it's just different. In terms of the scale of what they're actually doing, it is an evolution, because now the main body of the work that I'm doing is leading towards, the internal journey and the meditation and explaining what that is and giving the experience of that, and trying to normalise that so that anybody can get in about it, and because that is for everybody. That's the bit for me. What I got was, when I really got it, when you reconnect back to it, there's nice the separation, and the distance between each other is a complete illusion. This wholeness, this union, this divinity that I experienced inside me, it must be in everybody. So at that point, we all come from the same place. We all carry that essence inside of us. So ignorance being our only sin, that's the one thing. that everybody really should be like focusing on and trying to get to. And the fact that it's not, and the fact that it's hidden, and the fact that it's covered up and people don't really know about it, tells you a lot about it. But it's the one thing for me, in terms of where this needs to go. So speaking more and more about that. Now, anytime you tune in, I'm told it's called a Godcast. I mean, fucking damn it, what do you want? It's as clear as day. It's as clear as I can make it. As a Godcast, the intention with it is to share the light, But, this is where it's like timing, because the whole, depending on where you're at and depending on what you're coming in with, depending on what you need, if you're suffering from like severe childhood trauma, or you've been through the horrors of war and you've got locked in PTSD, or you're suffering from, really like deep, heavy, like trauma-induced depression and anxiety and suicidal tendencies, and there's all different kind of levels to, what you would get from it. Depending on what you need, or depending on how much work you do, that's the challenge for everybody. Because when people come into this and they get on about it, once they actually see what it is and they understand what it is that I'm doing, and the intention with it is dead simple. The intention with it is to help people like remember how we're meant to feel. The intention is to feel good again. The intention is to get back to the way that it's meant to be. It's really dead simple, and this path that I'm on and the path that I'm sharing with people, the natural path, is the way that it's meant to be. That's what makes it so fascinating for me, because this should be normal. The stuff that I'm doing and the stuff that I'm talking about, it should be normalised, because that's, what this place that we're in and how it's been set up, and the different lies and, all the different propagandas and the belief systems we've been given based on the reality that's been sold to us. It's very, very different from, I believe, the true reality and how it was meant to be. Before, when you take the circus and the clowns and all the media stuff and the illusions away, and the history we've been taught and all that, how it's been put together, basically the lies and the deceit, and to think that we don't really know because you've never experienced it, you're just basically taking somebody else's take on it. And then you understand those organisations, the education and like universities and how that all goes together. We just don't know. So for me, the most important part is to what it is I'm actually trying to do and the reasons that I'm doing it, is so that people can get back to the way that it's meant to be. That's what it's always been about. It's about helping people, re-find, getting back into balance and re-finding, that way of living and being that should have been, the way it was for all of us. And unfortunately, for so few in this world, that's the life that they get to enjoy and they get to live and experience, and that's absolutely tragic. So that's something we need to fix, absolutely. The timing and the way that people come into it. If you are struggling, if you are suffering, that's a great place to be for me to see people, coming in, because it takes work. It takes a certain amount of effort, and for a lot of people, being honest straight off the bat, that's not going to be, they're not going to be able to do it. If you are coming in and you're coming, the support system of whether it's been a doctor or whether it's been somebody that's been caring for you, looking after you, if you're in that place of, many people are in victim consciousness, so victimhood, where, somebody's going to do it for you. That's probably not going to be, this isn't going to work for you. It doesn't work that way, because what we're teaching is the tools and techniques are all about self-reliance. The tools and techniques are all about, seeing the world as it is and then taking it with a pinch of salt, and then like, what is it can you actually do? Taking that art of intentional living, taking back control and taking back your power. And then once you learn how it all goes together and you understand, the simple steps, to get you to a place of being able to manage your nervous system and sleep properly and feel good and be easy, and you start to get back to the way that it was meant to be. And for some people have never experienced that. Some people have never had their nervous system switched off for their entire life. Some people have never had a full night's sleep. Some people are under chronic stress and inflammation all the time. So when you experience something other than that, when your whole life has been that because of whatever, it doesn't matter, and the traumas and the stuff that can be locked in, and how that plays out and how that affects like how you conduct yourself and go your way through your life. When you're able to stop that and you're able to basically switch off, and for the first time give yourself a complete break for that, and then learn that you can actually do that yourself, that you have the ability to manage your nervous system. This nervous system that we thought, because of science, again, we were taught it was completely automatic, the autonomic nervous system, so there's nothing that you can really do about it. And then Wim Hof came along, and he did something that the yogis had known forever, the ability to influence your nervous system, how to lower your stress, drop your heart rate, lower your blood pressure. this is basic to those who understand. Again, ancient knowledge that's been passed down and hidden and stopped the flow of that, but he basically picked up on something the yogis have known forever and then proved it in science. The ability to then do that, and then the whole paradigm changes, because for me, certainly, when I came across Wim Hof, I was 44, 45 probably. When was that? 2016, so I'd be 45. And I remember going through the breath work, and particularly that very first ice bath, where I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just chucking ice in the tub. And it was because of pain. And just fascinating how these things lead you, and you think you're going to get one thing. And I did get the thing I was looking for. I did get pain relief. My pain was gone instantly. It was inside that first ice bath. It was gone. But it was then the other side of that, and then feeling how I felt. Particularly later on that day, where my head was completely quiet. My nervous system was switched off. Didn't even know that at the time. In fact, didn't learn that until I went to train with him. I remember sitting the first 2 days, like just learning all this science and thinking, why the fuck am I here? This is not why I'm here. But then when you learn it and you understand what's going on, really important to understand how it goes together, obviously so you can teach it. But the benefits to me in terms of what I was learning, my nervous system and how much that had been switched on my whole life because of, I believe, the vaccine I received when I was 13, 14. So that constant stress response of what I was in my nervous system, what I was going through my blood and what was stored within my tissues and my brain, the ability to influence that and make myself feel better by being able to change the chemistry, and switching off the stress response. That was absolutely life-changing. It really was. It's, and at a time, because of the pain I was in, because of the suffering I was in, I would never ever have found that. And this is where things like cold exposure, and I've stepped away from even promoting the cold exposure. It's a part of what I do. I do it every day. I was in this morning myself. I've been in the ice. I'm in every single day again just now, after a period where, for the first time ever since I started it, it was like, I'll use it when I need it. And that was fine. But now, the bit that I've been in, and didn't feel like I was doing that great. I'm needing probably a wee boost. And again, you're bringing in stress, so you don't get it for free. But I was needing a wee boost, in terms of how I was feeling physically and my mood. Anybody that's been watching this, it's like I'm like everybody else just now. I'm dealing with the realities of the world, so it's up and down. The stuff that I'm dealing with personally and the stuff that I'm seeing and processing and dealing with other people, so as a tool for me, but the realisation that I don't get it for free, the dump of stress I got this morning, and how switched on I feel just now, and how good I feel the rest of the day, then that's obviously affected my adrenals. That's obviously, there's negative within that. You don't just get everything. You don't just get it, the prize and the gifts that come with it. There's always a kind of counterbalance to it. But because of where I've been, then it's great for me just now. Where I found the cold and when I discovered cold exposure, the pain and suffering I was in, I was lying on the floor in tears greeting because I thought I'd fractured my neck. My knee was torn in half and my toe was broke at the same time, thanks to jiu-jitsu, the peaceful art, the gentle art, and it's like, so at that time I went and jumped in an ice bath. I just wouldn't have done it. It was before that I had no reasons for doing it. I can remember playing football over in Ireland in the summer, I think called the Milk Cup in Ireland. I think it's still on. We used to go with the Motherwell under 15s, 16s, and they would put us stand in the sea after the games on like every 2 days or every day, whatever it was, and they put you in the sea, walking about in the sea, and it was freezing cold. This is summertime in Ireland, up in Ballymena, and they kind of we stayed in a couple of wee kind of seaside towns north of it, absolutely beautiful, and walking about these wee swimming pools they must have been, or kind of paddling pools, but they were deep enough to get up to your thighs, and hating every minute of it, just really kind of walking about freezing and all that cold wind, and not really being aware of the benefits of it, and I don't even really believe they knew what they were doing. They were just kind of, they'd obviously picked up from somewhere, but I had no reasons for doing cold exposure my entire life. And then the timing of coming across Hicks and Gracie and watching the documentary Choke, probably 2000-ish, maybe just before that, when he's over this bronze Adonis, the way the peaceful warrior, just meditation, he was doing the breath work as well, so again I got a wee glimpse of that, and again timing, watching somebody who I greatly admired, and when I really got into jiu-jitsu all the years ago, started following it and just fell in love with it. He was a man, he was not just because of his record, but because of who he was as a human being and his story and the spiritual journey that he was on, lost his son, and just kind of feeling who he was as a human being, and then watching Choke the documentary and seeing him in the cold and getting a kind of thing for it, like, and it wasn't probably until I did my first Ironman And at the time, I'd been training right up to it, and I was watching the documentary, probably to motivate myself a wee bit at the time as well, looking back on it. I remember thinking at the time, I would love an ice bath. The very first time I did it was 2010 over in Germany, and it wasn't roasting, but that was a couple of years later. It was like 90 degrees in Frankfurt. And my foot split in half right up the middle, and I had to tape. It was the last kind of half of the marathon was just a nightmare. But Germany and Roth was warm enough. I remember after it, just thinking what your body had just been through, and the desire to, get in an ice bath. I really felt like an ice bath was right out of the blue. I hadn't even considered it. All my training, I was training 25, 30 hours a week probably some weeks. Like a full-time, non-paid athlete, still working full-time, the family, the weigh-ins, all that kind of stuff, but training. And never really considered it as a kind of a form of recovery. And then when we left, we stayed in Nuremberg, and we drove down to Austria. And I remember my wife drove for about 20 minutes. My feet were just the size of, they were like twice the size, obviously the waist and, that's coming off the muscles and what you've been through the previous day and the inflammation and everyone's kind of draining. And they head south, that's why a lot of the triathletes wear the kind of socks, the compression socks and that kind of stuff, is to stop that during the race. But the next day, once you've done it, and then everyone just starts to head south. And I remember I was driving, I looked down at my feet, and my feet were like 3 times the size they were meant to be, and they were kind of black and blue looking. I thought, I really need to get my feet up here. So my wife offered to drive, and I remember my feet on the dashboard of the van, driving through Austria. We were at that point. I'd been driving for maybe 5 or 6 hours to get down to where we were going, and again the desire, I need to get these in cold water. The inflammation, my feet were almost bursting. That's what it felt like. And then we got an alpine stream on the way down, and I remember getting just up to about my knees and just standing in it. Why I didn't get in right up to my neck, I don't know to this day. Just alpine snow melt in the middle of summer, coming off one of the mountains, right, one that valley that runs right through, the main road that runs right through the centre of Austria, from west to east, and just pulling in and getting my feet in it and just being like an absolute bliss, and then, it wasn't until all the years later again that, what was that, 2010, so another 6 years later before I gave up all the training, and I could have done with it then, again the timing wasn't there for me. It wasn't until I came across pain and suffering and I was lying greeting in agony, but that I really needed to find something. And then lo and behold, when the teacher is ready, the student appears, or the student is ready, the teacher appears, both ways. Basically he appeared with the cold exposure, and that was me, I was into it. And then, what I got for that, I would never have got if I'd been suffering as much as that. So that's why when the timing for this, and if people are going to take this to the nth degree, then a lot of the times, and seeing people that really stick around about it and go long term and stay here for the long run, it's normally people that are kind of not in the best of places. A lot of them are completely broken, if I'm being honest. A lot of people are really suffering, or they've been through hell, and all the different guises that comes in, and they're looking for something. And at that point, you've got a chance, because it takes work. This work and what we're doing, it takes work. And this is why I've probably moved away from just giving people the one-off experiences. People are asking quite a bit just now about the Friday nights in, and the answer's the same all the time. There's one event on in Glasgow just now, once a month, the Yoga Burn. That's the reconnection, that's the desire to get in and obviously take this work into Glasgow and take people through the breath work and explain the breathing and take them into relaxation and then meditation and reconnection back to themselves, back with each other, back to the divine. That's a great class. But the general breath work, cold exposure, stuff I did on a Friday night, where people would come in, they would get a wee snapshot of it, and they would maybe be brought with somebody, or they would maybe be, a lot of times people would maybe come 2-3 times a year, and they would get up and get around about it. But, for me, it's like, the bit that I'm at just now, I've been talking to my wife about this all week. I can only really teach for where I'm at, so getting back and taking those basic classes, in terms of how it goes together, the level of detail I would sometimes explain breathwork and the science behind breathwork. My training with not Wim Hof, none of that kind of stuff, but the Oxygen Advantage, learning from Patrick McKeown, and the real science, the proper science in terms of how it goes together and the benefits and how it impacts, for me, mental health and well-being, and how you can switch off the stress and the basic stuff, the real stuff, how to help a kid that's suffering from panic attacks, how to help somebody that can't sleep experience peace of mind and then put them to sleep and show them how to do it themselves, all that kind of stuff. But now, if you ever hear me present or take a class in an event, there's nowhere near. A lot of times I wouldn't even mention, maybe do a wee bit about the chemistry and what's going on, but I'm beyond that now. I've done it so many times, and it's moved on. The game's moved on. The same as with cold exposure. My game's moved on. The bit that I'm at and where I'm teaching from. It's like so many people. If you don't understand it, you've never heard of cold exposure by this point. I mean, almost everybody and their granny's doing cold exposure. So that unique selling point I had right at the beginning. It was never about that, but it was a great bridge. It was a great way of getting people to switch off. Great way for getting trauma up. That amount of stress, especially for young men who would basically, even the breathing sometimes wouldn't get them. And reconnecting back into the heart and feeling the feelings of love wouldn't get them. Even feeling grateful for anything wouldn't get them, but they'd go and sit in that tub in the middle of winter time and they'd be breathing, to try and deal with the stress and even the challenge to their ego. Sometimes the bigger the harder it was. The big boys were covered in tattoos, and the real men, the real, sometimes real hard men, they couldn't, because you're putting you right in the spot, it's putting you right in the moment. It's a real challenge, can you do this? And you've never experienced anything like that. That tub with 100 kilos of ice in the middle of winter time, when it's coming sideways and it's freezing and there's ice in the ground, or there's maybe, it's frozen in the tub. It brings up so many questions and puts you in a position you've never ever been before. So that in itself would just break so many different people. In so many different ways they would open up. But now, where I'm at and where the world is with cold exposure and how you do it, I think it's still really important. It's an absolutely vital tool as I'm getting just now. But unless you've got really strong reasons for doing it, you're never going to do it. Unless you're chronic pain, if you're in chronic pain and inflammation, if it's like the choice is you're taking the pills and the pills are wrecking your stomach, or wrecking your biome, or they're wrecking your immune system, whatever they're doing, and you can't actually take them physically anymore because of the damage they know they're doing to you, the side effects and all that kind of stuff, at that point, if you can't go through your life, if you can't manage your life because you're in chronic pain, then cold exposure is an option, absolutely. And if the choice becomes to be in pain and go through the amount of stress that my body would be under if I didn't have cold exposure, the amount of stress that being dumped into my system, in so many ways, and there's so many benefits to it. My son just now has got some sort of an allergic reaction. It's been horrible for him the last 3 or 4 days. His skin's been crawling. I don't know if he's been bit or whatever it is. And straight for the beginning, I was getting the cold, and it took him a few days. In the last couple of days, he's been hammering the cold, and it's the only thing that he even tried to go to the doctor, which, good luck with that. That lasted one phone call, and he just thought, nah. So learning self-reliance, and he tried different ointments and different whatever. But it's the cold exposure. It's basically switching off that, taking the inflammation away, reducing the inflammation with breathwork and cold exposure. So these practices, these tools and techniques, if you've got a really strong reason for doing it, then fantastic, you've got a chance. Cold exposure, exactly like that. But the rest of the work's the same. The rest of the program is the exact same. You're not going to get it for free. And this is where people would come in, and I would pour my heart and soul into every single time that I present. Anybody that saw me do that, the passion and the inspiration and the way that this is my life. This is what I do. To try and, first and foremost, to help the cause. For the light, and to help the divine, and try and get this world back to the way that it's meant to be. But the amount of times where you would give your everything and you would give your all, and people would just they would come and take it, and then you would never ever see them again, and that's fine, totally fine, and that I get all of that. But the difference where people are now round about it, and they're actively going on this journey with me. So we're now standing side by side within the program. This art of intentional living, this way of being and going through your life, then every single thing matters. Everything that you do in your life can be applied to this work. So from getting up every single day, and checking in, so I teach 3 basic things. The power of awareness, to see what you're doing to yourself. So number 1 is the power of awareness. What you're doing to yourself, what you're allowing other people to do to you. Where are you spending your time? What you're thinking about? What you're watching? What you got on your phone? What you're eating? Basic awarenesses, and ignorance is our only sin. Most people don't have any awareness. They just go through their life, just fucking day after day after day, and that's just how it is, and that's completely fine. But if you're struggling, if you're suffering, if you're in dis-ease, if you're in a place you would rather be somewhere else, then if you understand that the system probably isn't going to do it for you, for some people it might. If you understand that the life coach or the therapist or the medication or the self-help book or when you get to a point you realise, okay, I get all of that. The amount of people, there's somebody that's been close to me this last few weeks through the work, and it's hilarious when they talk about they've got every fucking self-help book in the world, and none of it it's not that none of it works. It's like, because you need to take the information and then apply it to your life. You need to take the information and then actually use it. And the challenge with almost every one of the books is that it's somebody else's take on it, and it's normally something they've got from somebody else a lot of the time. Certainly the new wave of like gurus that are coming through, it's somebody else's stuff they're selling, just rebranded or reworded in a different way. A lot of the masters that I've got behind me is original work. It's original to them. You talk about Hawkins or either way it came through Wayne Dyer, you know, and his reference for the source, you know, going to Patanjali, and it's original. So it's coming through, you know, from the source of them. They've taken something and they've expanded upon it. Someone like Dr. Hawkins has taken something that's completely unique to him. The way that came through, and to calibrate the levels of consciousness, I mean, fucking, where do you get that from? You know, so to think he's created this, and then the evolution of that is me personally, speaking for me personally, you take these bits and pieces and then you bring them into your own life and you master them for yourself. So you take what you learn from them. But then what the program has become for me, it's original to me. So the stuff that I'm teaching, the way that I've put it together, that's something that I've created through, you know, learning from them, evolving it, making it better, making it easier, making it so that I can understand it, so that I can apply it to my life. And then the program itself is like, what's the easiest way that you can actually start to bring this stuff into your life? How do you apply it into your life? Because the information isn't enough, the inspiration isn't enough. You know, it takes at some point the work that's required to take it for that knowledge and then to bring it into you, and then to start to like actually implement it into your life before you even start to get the benefits from it. You know, normally for me and what I've seen, that takes somebody who is needing it. You really need something that's going to make it better. Why? Because it isn't that great. Because you're in a place you don't want to be. That's normally always the way that it works. High flyers, some of them will do it, some of them jump the ice path, you know, some of them will, again, all the motivation stuff to be successful. A lot is for their Instagram pics and for their profile and all that kind of stuff. And either doing it because it makes them better, it makes them optimal, that kind of thing. But that isn't what this is. This is definitely, you know, a more quiet, humble, you know, you're talking about the internal practices, you're talking about, you know, enlightenment is the plan for everybody, isn't it? That's the plan, to discover the direct experience, to that realisation of the divinity that you've got inside you. That's what we're doing here, you know, so that takes work, you know, that takes, devotion is a great word. Devotion was my word. I was devotional. I decided I was going to get it, and I went and got it, and it took me the best part of 18 years every single day. Never missed a single day. So that's what it took me to get it. But at the same time, you know, this work and what it does, from depending on what you're coming in with, depending on your reasons, depending on your why, you get round about the breathing. You know, you start to implement a dead simple practice that you're doing anyway. You're breathing anyway. I love that one. And you're breathing anyway, so why not fucking breathe properly? You know, you've got a choice to feel better than you do just now. You've got a choice to switch off your nervous system. You've got a choice to relax and experience peace of mind. I love when I go to a dental hygienist every 3 months, as an example, and you go in, and the last time I was in, it was great because they turned the fucking radio off. Every time I go in, if there's nobody in, I'll hit the radio off, because it's just poison that comes through you, and we're sitting, there was 5 people in the waiting room, and the 5 of them are on their phones. So I get in, goes to the toilet, and the toilet's just off the main waiting room, and I comes back in, and I'm completely comfortable with this now. And in the past, I remember when I started doing this a long time ago, and you would get a wee bit uncomfortable and you could kind of feel, but now it's like, fuck it, like, what are they going to do? I'm never going to see them again, like, it doesn't matter. And it's a chance to help them in ways that I'll share in a wee second. So they're all on their phones, stressed out, they're not going to the dentist. I hate the dentist. I love my dentist. I hate the process and the procedures and the noises, and again, childhood trauma. Got a tooth out in primary 7, and it was barbaric. I remember going through it, the pain and oh man, I wanted to die. It was horrific, you know. So me, the dentist, and the thoughts that I've had a few bad experiences over the years, you know, so that obviously feeds in. So I'm ready to get into the dental hygienist, which I don't like either. My gums are really, really sensitive. It's always really painful for me. It's never a great experience. As you're getting older as well, when your teeth start to deteriorate and your gums and all that, it's never good news you get. You know, it's like maintaining and kind of try to stabilise, because of the new procedures that I now do in my mouth, with, you know, between brushing the gums and stuff I never knew. So at this age and stage, I've got all this stuff I'm carrying into the dentist. I don't like the dentist. It's never great news in terms of, things are still just about maintaining them, but you can feel you're deteriorating. So before I get into that, you know, obviously I'm going to sit and do breath work and get into meditation. every single time, like there's no question about it. I've just driven for an hour. I've probably been on my phone. It's time to relax and just switch myself off so that I begin at the dental hygienist. I'm completely as the best I can be. And for probably, it was 10-15 minutes the last time. And straight away, bang, I can go there, sitting in silence. I can feel them starting to tune into me, and that's all good, because inside a couple of moments, I'm in unconditional love. I'm sitting in union, especially with Babaji. I'm sitting this direct bridge. Doesn't matter where I am, and the divine light is coming into me, and because of my intention, I'm then blessing that entire room. I'm sending it into the room, I'm sending it into their hearts, and I can, feel where they're at in terms of you can feel the level of stress, and you can see where they're at as soon as you open the door, the responses to who's in and how fidget they are and all that kind of stuff. So they are benefiting, of course they are. I'm sitting in meditation, I'm sitting, completely relaxed in union with the divine, and bringing that vibration with my intention into that space, and as a result of that, I had a much better experience had I been in there stressed out my nut, straight into the dental hygienist, but again, so it's like this can be applied in so many different situations that nobody knows about it. It's really subtle. It's very much like getting it for yourself, doing it for yourself. I'm not doing that to so they can watch me and so they can fuck that. That's maybe a long time ago, right at the kindergarten stuff, when and you can see this a lot in people. I was meditating today, and people were like, okay, but again, the ego is very, very slippery. I'm genuinely going in there, and I know you can feel this. I'm going into my heart and just to breathe and reconnect and have 15 minutes meditation. There's nothing I can really do for them on that level. And once I'm into it and I'm tuned in, then obviously you can help them. But the point is, you bring this, depending on what you need and depending on where you're going and depending on how much you're getting from the work, into every single area of your life. It becomes a full-time job. It is a full-time job for me. This morning, it was 5:30 this morning, and as soon as I woke up, my first thought was meditation. Every single morning, it's union. I can lie here, and my mind is very active as soon as I wake up. That's me, I'm on it. So the question then becomes, when am I getting up? And for me, the longer it goes, and this could be inside 5-10 minutes max, I never ever get back to sleep. I wish I could. But inside 5-10 minutes, it's like I'm wasting time here. I could be in meditation, and come down here into the Vortex, and had a good hour and a half, 2 hours this morning. And then the second part of it, I've been on the healing bed, lying in the healing bed every morning and doing a wee bit of self-healing in a different way that's been coming through for me, which has been fantastic. So again, and that's called cleaning. I'm going to talk about cleaning and within one of the next 2 or 3 podcasts, which is a part of the Sajmark system, the divine light coming through you and tapping into the master. But another part of it is cleaning and removing the imprints and the impressions, and that's been something I've been thinking about a lot, which feeds into the traumas and the addictions. Conversation my wife had last week. I was talking about childhood trauma, and she basically said, like, do you ever get beyond it? Like, surely you must get beyond it. Surely there's something that enables you to transcend it. How do you leave it behind? Which is really an interesting point from somebody who's never been through it. It really is. It's really interesting, and because I've been through it, and because I work with people, and some of the closest people to me in this work have been through very similar stuff to me. So there's a real compassion and empathy for people that are, it's like guys that come back from war. There's stuff that they've seen that doesn't matter how many books I read and how many films and the stories, and I can sit and greet with them, but I've never been through it and seen what they saw and experienced what happened to them. So you can only go so far by that, and this was certainly the case, because I was thinking about childhood, the sexual stuff and the trauma that and what it does to people and how it affects people negatively, over-sexualisation and exposure, never mind sexual abuse, at any age, before, even being sexualised before, you're ready and mature enough to deal with it. I was thinking that this morning meditation, like, good luck with that. How many children are affected negatively in these times because of what they see too young? And then they shouldn't be seeing it, for so many reasons. That innocence, when it's in any way like polluted or diluted or affected negatively, it's wrong, and it's something absolutely, of course, it needs to change. But it's can you get beyond it? That was the question. Like, surely at some point you must be able to get beyond it. And it's like, and it really caught me, because like straight away the reaction is, it's all right for you, that's your instant response. It's like you can't really say that because you're not qualified, you've never been through it. So And our intentions were completely pure, because it was like, because the question was like, how do you get beyond it? That's what she really meant with it, like how there must be a way. And for the next 2 or 3 days, all I could think about was, like, how do you transcend it? Because I talk about it all the time. How do you transcend that stuff? Can you ever really get beyond it? What do you need to do with this work? Is there a way with this work? And I've experienced that in the past. This is where the human experience is really, it's absolutely shite, if I'm honest, in many different ways, because I've really got beyond it when I was really intense with it and doing the work at that level every single day, and experienced enlightenment, and I was living it in every level, the diet, the disciplines, the lessons I was learning, the books I was reading at the time, the stuff I was listening to. Then I really got it. I really got beyond it, and I was in this place of like divine bliss for a long period of time. At one point, it was months. It could have been, I think, 6 to 9 months. At one point, I was in this state of just alignment, of feeling incredible, feeling really good, and I get really bored with it. But looking back on it, there was none of the dark stuff. There was none of this. Nothing was needing healed. Everything was done. I was in that place of bliss. And then when I come back to teach it, when I come back and I decided I was going to open the Vortex and get around about it, and then what's happened since then, getting dragged in with intention, like consciously and deliberately getting into this with people and helping people that are going through stuff that I've been through. That's why I'm doing it. I know how to get beyond it, but there's like an erosion. There's like an invisible erosion that's happened and taking place, and like I'm no longer in that place that I was. And now I'm in at different stages and different levels, and over the years, I'm definitely, like, I'm not beyond it. I'm still living it. And that's maybe because of something I've heard during the day. Somebody might be talking about something, and the impact of that can fucking break me in half. I remember a beautiful soul tell me a story that happened probably 65 years ago, and it was relating to sexual abuse. And the details that were given to me, the event itself, it broke me in half. I couldn't stop crying when she left. Could not stop crying. And it's like, it's when it's so exact, and the truth that comes through it, and the damage that's been done, and it's like, and that takes me back into it, because you're helping, you're sending love to them, and to see another human being that you care for, and you become fond of, and to see them suffering, then obviously there's a human element of that. But then because of your own experiences and the stuff that I'm working with and the stuff that I've been through in different levels, then you're in it with them, and of course it does. As Abraham Hicks says, you shine a light into anything that gets bigger. So when you're then reliving that with them, and that's happened so many times over the years, in any like grieving, the traumas, the people the stuff that I've been through, the minute you're going through it with them and helping them find relief with it, then there's a certain bit of you, of course it is. That's where the layers of the onion, and you get to work on different bits to yourself at different stages. Again, timing is so important in all of this. It really is, and you find yourself as I am, and I think that's probably the best way for me. If I was sitting in bliss just now, there'd be none of this. Like, fuck this. That's because you're completely self-absorbed, the higher self-absorbed, the devotion to the divine. You're working for God in a different way. You're tuning into it. And the first bit, it's probably just to get it for yourself and to master yourself, definitely. And then when you get it, this next part, and it feels like now it's like, how can you do both? How can you be in alignment and have the spiritual journey and do all the stuff that keeps you remembering the truth and the light and working for the divine and try to save this fucking world and get it back to the way that it's meant to be. And then there's the human element of all the stuff you're dealing with day to day, not just your own stuff, but other people's stuff as well. And that's I'm not going to say tricky, because it's really difficult, but that's the place where I find myself with this work. So this is where, depending on what you need, again for me, the programme and what the programme is and what I'm doing within the programme, my own programme, that's what enables me to get through it. So again, what's my reasons? What's my why? Why do I need it? Like, who is this for? This is for me. This work is for me. At this point in time in my life, what do I need to do? And this is where the requirements, and I'm not going to say disciplines. I hate the word discipline, because discipline feels like hard work. Same as motivation. I hate motivation. It's like to get up in my bed this morning at 5:30 and sit in bliss and meditation and union with the divine, and then the experience I got lying in that healing bed, the shift that came through me because of a new thing that's coming up, this cleaning process that's been about for the last 25 years of my life, but I never really used it properly. I never really had the timing for using it or understanding like how I should be able to bring it into my life. And when you understand how it all goes together, and you're aware enough, that first pillar I spoke about, the power of awareness, when you understand how that conversation came up, and then Jill's take on it, and then me processing it in terms of, right, how do we get beyond it? And then off the back of that, the next 2 or 3 meditations, and then this cleaning process coming up, and I'm thinking, right, so things like trauma, how do you shift that? Things like addiction, which comes from a lot of that, how do you shift that? How do you get beyond that? And then the journey, this intentional journey of constant expansion and just trying to fucking work it out. That's all I'm doing, is trying to work this stuff out and continuously expand this program and this system, so that when I'm not here, there's something that basically anybody can tap into, and you'll find the answers, or find a path, find your path within it, in terms of how you navigate your way through your life, based on not just the stuff that I've done, the stuff that I've learned, and the teachers before me, but then your evolution of that, because that is your program. So what do you need to do to basically to get there for yourself? And the cleaning process is something that again, how things are linking up for me just now, how things are, the synchronicities of things, because I'm devotional to this work, because every single day I'm dusting myself down, and a lot of the times I'm literally dusting myself down and keeping going, and then you start to get a wee bit of relief, you start to get a chink of light, and you start to get a wee bit of wind in your sails again, and you start to, the positive momentum starts to go through, because the ebbs and the flows of what this is like, it's this bit with it just now, after a difficult year, again, it's like, it's starting to come again. There's a shift coming, there's a bounce coming. Abraham Hicks used to talk about the bounce, when you fall and you crash and you're in the contrast and the pain and the suffering and how bad it is. But the other side of that, the bounce on the other side of that, is so worth it every single time. And when you're going through the pain and the suffering, and you're kind of you're making your way through it, as I was, as just the stuff I've been dealing with all year and how difficult it's been in many different levels this year. And then you go, right, okay, what the fuck do I need to do here? What do I need to do to get back in to the way that it's meant to be, or certainly the best that I can make it? And there's certain things that I can't change just now, but what's the best that I can make it? And then straight away, you then start to go, right, okay, so what am I doing every single day? And the first thing for me is like, what can I do? Am I doing cold exposure? Am I doing cold exposure? I'm not doing cold exposure. I'm doing it when I feel like it, which, that's fine when you're flying and you're doing great and the world's your oyster, great, and everyone's going good. But when you're struggling and you're suffering, number one, it's the last thing you want to do, but it's like the things that you need to do, not the things that you want to do. That's the important part with this, and that's where for a lot of people, they're going to be already. They're going to step away and go, you know what, nah, it's too much, and that's completely fine. Again, the timing of it. But for me, what's my program? What do I need to do? And you start to identify the things that you're doing through awareness, and then the second pillar, intention, the things that I'm going to do. I intend to feel better. I want to feel better. I don't want to feel like this all the time. This is all right, and I've learned loads, and I've had a few doings this year. I've had a few kind of, severe blows, but I'm still going, and I'm dusting myself down. I know I'm starting to heal, and I'm right, okay, so what can I do? And again, that timing, when you start to get that wee, all right, okay, because really what it is about taking back control. Every single bit of this is about taking back control. The realisation that you don't need anybody to do it for you, and in fact, the only person that can do it is you. You need to do it for yourself. So that taking back control, that power of intention, that second pillar, so powerful, the power of intention. I intend, here's what's fucking happening. Every single day I'm getting into the cold. What a statement. And you don't tell anybody. You do it first. I'm now sharing this because I'm talking about what it is that I do, and I'm in every single day. Every single day I'm getting in the cold. Why? Because I need to. And I'm feeling better, and it's getting colder, and it's getting more challenging every single day. It doesn't matter how I sleep, doesn't matter what the meditation's like, I'm going to get in that cold every single day. And it doesn't matter who I walk in as, it's how I walk out. So that basic discipline, as Jim Rohn says, a few simple disciplines every single day, that's success. And that, if you get into the cold and you're doing that, then you'll probably eat differently. I mean, you understand the power of the significance of eating properly, and the power that can give you. Again, that's just a basic for me, but it's every single day. Lemon water this morning. As soon as I got up, litre of lemon water. It was lime actually this morning. That's how I start my day. And then meditation, and then into my, the cleaning process. And then by the time I'm needing a pee, and I've just peed out, a litre and a half. So I've flushed my liver, I've flushed my kidneys, I've given myself what a start to the day. And then celery juice, have my celery juice on the back of that, and then it's a heavy metal detox smoothie, and then by the time, done all that, and then it's time to get into the cold. And a lot of the times you find yourself faffing, and you don't really want to do it. It's funny when Jill's getting in and you'll see her pottering about and basically fucking about and just no want to do it. And you're talking yourself, it's hilarious because it's like, who wants to go out and stand in the cold? Who wants to sit in an ice tub? You know, when you're in a nice warm house and everyone's all right and you're looking forward to a cup of tea and your breakfast or whatever it is, and your day ahead. You know, but it's like, no, I need to do this. And when you do it, when you make yourself, they say it takes 3 days to form, you know, to make that discipline to bring into your life. For me, it's always been one moment. It's a fucking decision. I'm doing it every single day and that's it. And this is maybe where I'm a wee bit different. Because when I say I'm going to do that, that's me, it's done and dusted. When I say I'm going to juice every single day, I juice every single day. I've done that since I bought a juicer, going back 26, 27 years ago. 1997. So 29 years ago, 28 years ago is when I started it. Come back for Tony Robbins, that's it, I'm juicing. I'm going to juice, and I've done it every single day. I used to take a big juicer on holiday with us to Spain, bananas, before there was juice bars. And it's like devotion. You know, you decide, and because I'd felt that bad and I didn't want to be there anymore, I decided I was going to do it in a different way. The supplements, you know, I never run out of supplements. I've always got the right supplements there. No matter what it is, I need to have the supplements there. Because my body needs it, because I need it. You know, the supplements I take before I go to bed to calm the nervous system, add that into the breath work, and it's before you know it, you start to feel how you're meant to feel. You know, and it's that taking back control, the realisation that the whole victim consciousness, and this is the thing with like medicine and the whole healthcare system, and either certain things that we need them to do for us, but like phoning the doctor and like, oh, on the phone and there's your pills, oh, great, and then they don't fucking work, so what else have you got for me? You know, and then it's someone else, and how many people, that's their life, you know, and then they end up taking all these different fucking pills with all these side effects, and you end up trapped in the circus. So taking back that control and taking back that power, and the realisation of, right, oh, there is a different way of doing this. There's a different way of doing this. That's very much who this is for. For somebody who's tried it the other ways and it didn't work, and they're not in a place they would like to be, and they know there must be another way of doing it. This is another way of doing it. This is a different way of living and being. It is dead simple. A lot of the times, in the beginning, certainly, it's no easy. Even as you go through it and you really get to, you know, to mastery of the self, it's still no easy. This life isn't easy just now. The challenges we face, fucking by God, we know it's difficult times we're living in just now. You know, but this system, this program, these tools, these techniques, you know, for those who are seeking, for those who are lost, for those who are, you know, suffering, whether it's dis-ease or mental health or physical health challenges, those who are grieving and trying to make peace with that, those who are, you know, separated, and the realisation of, like, I've always felt there's something greater. That was me. I always felt there was something greater. I always knew there was something more, even for a really young age, but didn't know what it was. I always felt, no, that I was destined for greatness. That sounds fucking horrific. But I felt there was like something bigger that was way beyond all the stuff that I could see. All the illusions, all the drama and the noise. And I remember saying to the priest at Christmas time, I've spoken about this many times on here, like, what is all the commercialisation? Because I knew there was people that are suffering, because my mum would talk about that. Like how grateful your birthdays and Christmases for the gifts that you receive, because there's people that have got fuck all. You know, so I remember seeing through Christmas and thinking, what is this all about? What's the Catholic Church's role within this? And the priest like looking at me as if you know too much. So that pull, that knowing there was something there, yeah, that was my drive. What is it that took me to do this starting back in 1997 and do it every single day to this day? And I don't know what that is. I don't know that drive. Maybe it's because of the pain and the suffering and the decimation that I went through that enabled me to, you know, rise out of the ashes and starting this journey of like, because I had no other choice. Feeling like that ever again is not an option. I will never be back to that. In mental hospitals, and I remember chained to a bed in a mental hospital in Spain in the middle of summer. It was horrific. It was absolutely barbaric. Having to like fucking pee myself in the bed because they wouldn't release me for the chains, you know, and you're like, fucking hell, man, what? And I can remember that. I can remember the pain, you know, of just being there and being like trapped. You talk about freedom. I talk about freedom all the time, and real freedom is like the experience of God. That's the only way, because the freedom in this life's an illusion. You know, you think you're free, good luck. We are not free. Some would say we're a slave race. We're so trapped in this whole world we're living in just now, but you know, I remember feeling like that, you know, and again, when I think of that, there you go, there's another instance. How do you get beyond that? How do you transcend that? How do you, because that feeling was locked into me. I experienced it in this lifetime. So how do you get beyond it? And no, it doesn't make me feel bad, but it's a great fuel for the fire, great to be able to look back on it. And I've done all the healing to do with that. Even, I remember going back to that hospital in Spain. I wrote about this in the first book. What a day that was, you know, to go back into that hospital and the healing that took place. and reliving that whole thing, and just the gratitude for the staff and being in that time, and the memories that were coming up. So I've done all that healing. I've done like fucking, trust me, I've done it. But great to look back on it and think, all right, I remember how like terrible that was. I will never be there again. That's one of the things that I go to when it's like, why am I doing this? What's the reasons? And it's like, then the focus becomes the light. I don't stand in the tub every morning and go, oh, I don't want to be that guy that's chained to a bed. Oh, fuck all that. You know, it's the focus is on like the very best version, like how you want to feel, like the being empowered, you know, to be in alignment, to be in this place where I can actually do this, you know, and you know, not take too much out myself and help other people, and you know, so the focus is always on the light, absolutely, you know, and it's all about, at the end of the day, you know, like being attracted to it, doing the work. Why are you doing it? What's the reasons? What's the why? And dead simple, it's to fulfill your potential. That's what it's about, to fulfill your potential. Now that's not for everybody. In fact, so few people. Again, life and the way people go through it, as I went through it, life was just happening to me. Going to the fit bar, buying a newspaper, watching the fucking news, like eating shite. That's just where it starts, isn't it? That in the Western world, certainly where I am, that's the reality for most people. You know, and then, you know, as you start to evolve and you start to be aware that, wait a wee minute here, again, because I maybe lost everything, it's like, okay, so that doesn't work, that whole system didn't work for me, the pills and the medications, they really fucking killed me. The pain that I went through with therapists sitting talking shite, talking about fucking why you were the way you were, like, I didn't know anything, but I knew that it didn't work. I knew it was making me feel worse. You know, so to come through all that and to go, right, there must be a different way of doing this, and then discovering personal development and going, right, okay, so life is no longer happening to you. You know, life eventually, as I discovered, it's no that God's got a plan for you, and God might have a plan, and you might have some divine mission you've signed up for. I get all of that, but in this life, in this conscious life we're in as human beings, what I now know is that the life actually comes from you. You know, it doesn't happen to you, although it does for a lot of people. But once you start to like become awake and aware and intentional with your life, then you get to realise that the better you feel and the happier you are, and the better you sleep, and the more optimistic, you know, and the more aware in terms of what you can do and impact certain things, then life seems to get better and better. Fascinating. Even just this morning before I come on here, you know, somebody who's taken complete responsibility in one area of their life, and inside 24 hours, just changing a couple of things and getting back into balance, you know, then the whole ship turns around. And everything, things just start to work out miraculously for them. It's fascinating how it goes together, you know. So, and as difficult as it is, as difficult as these times are, you know, the question is always, what can we do about it? You know, how can we make it better? How can you fulfill your potential? How can you get every single thing that you came here to get? You know, what can you do? And that's where, you know, it is self-reliance. That's where it is realising that life does come from you. That's where the realisation is that you're not a victim and nobody's got any power over you. They might think they have, but at the nth degree, they don't. You know, they really fucking don't. You know, and I learned this last week. I had a really, really significant experience last week, which kind of feeds into all of this. And I maybe was going to talk about it. I've been kind of thinking about it. I've shared it with the programme members. I've shared it with the group. But it lends to this and explains a wee bit about, you know, how everything matters and what you can do about it. Now, the synchronicities within this are amazing. You know, the way that the information that came through to me and how I needed it. I've been very much drawn towards the medical medium again over the last probably month or so, because of one or two people that are near me that are going through specifically medical challenges. You know, so they're in the system and they're having to go for things like scans, or they're looking at medications, or looking at different, you know, even just being in that environment, you know. And I've been back in it myself, visiting a couple of times to different people, and even just being in that environment, walking through the smoke at the front door, and that level of consciousness that greets you in Wishy General, and then into the wards, you know, and the Wi-Fi and the machines, and seeing people that are linked up to different things getting transported between. It's no easy. I mean, God bless and God help the people that are in that environment. But, you know, I've been running about that the last wee bit, and without getting into it in too much detail. So starting to be aware of medical medium, that the Brain Saver book, the one that came out maybe a couple of years ago. I ordered it at the time and it never came. And I was just, all right, that's interesting. I wonder why that didn't come. I'd ordered both the hardback copies, was getting them half price at the time, and they didn't come. And I saw the information online. I watched Anthony talking about it, how he was up for fucking 18 hours a day writing it, and two massive volumes, two fantastic books. They looked like, they felt like. But again, just for whatever reason it didn't happen. I never really felt a need, again, the timing to be drawn towards it. But a month ago, it started popping up and I started watching it, started being aware of, and this is something it's so rife just now, the neurological stuff, you know, the Alzheimer's and the Parkinson's, and people that are suffering from brain conditions, memory loss, you know, brain fog. He talks about it all the time. I'm very aware of it. And, you know, so started to think about these books and started to think about, I need to really order them, I need to get them, it's time for me to get them. And, you know, so was over last week, was visiting at the hospital, came out of the hospital, just heavy, even just being in that place, you know, the memories that it brings up for me, you know, that they 2 years with my mum, and the amount of times I used to get into Ross Hall with my mum or my dad as well now for tests and different doctors you meet, and then watching how that between the private healthcare sector and then getting back in, you know, to the NHS, which is so challenging in so many different ways. I don't believe you can get healthy in there, I really don't. It's been documented on here before, all the Wi-Fi and the food and the environment and the expectations and the level of awareness, the bedside manner. I remember with my mum, but it's like, oh my God, man, you shouldn't be doing this. You should not be doing this job. So for me, being running about that again was like really tricky. So last Thursday, came back, sun was shining, end of kind of into autumn sun, a beautiful day, and I grabbed the dog and basically went to detox, sit in the fields to detox, went to walk up the back of the falls. There's a wall garden up there I've been using, so it keeps the wind off. There's a wee bit of wind up, keeps the wind off. You sit in the sun meditating, complete silence, you know, sun in my face, and the clouds. I remember looking up and just like the realisation that the clouds they've been spraying, whatever was in the sky that morning had been spraying, which is most days, over the last 2 or 3 days here, what they've been spraying in the skies, the kind of that heavy fog and mist that they call it. When you see it at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, as I do almost every morning, when I'm coming downstairs to get into, either to work or get into meditation in the Vortex, and if I've got a head torch on and it's pitch black outside, and it's like nothing I've ever seen before. Certainly nothing growing up was like that. And even as an adult, you know, when you can see the way that it glimmers and the way that it shines, and it doesn't look like water to me, and there must be moisture in it, but whatever it is, they're spraying. So sitting in meditation, I had my hands on the earth, sitting with the Murph, the dog, sun in my face, and just like process, and then letting the stuff come up, you know, like I remember that time with my mum, and then really missing my mum and thinking about the hospital, and you play the game, is there anything else you could have done, or you could have done better, and it's all that kind of stuff. So I'm just sitting, letting all that go. And beautiful meditation, looking up at the sky and just kind of think, all right, I've been spraying this morning, just is what it is, doesn't really affect me. Again, it's what can you do about it. This story's all about what you can do about it. And then from way back in the distance, I can't remember whether I probably heard it first, but there was this kind of, it was almost like a pulsing sound that felt like it was interesting. I didn't know what it was. It felt away in the distance. It was just this really kind of fast pulsing sound, like a vibration that was basically making this noise. That's what it felt like. Sitting in meditation, that's quite interesting. And then I get closer and closer, and it gets stronger and stronger, and I get louder and louder. And then over the course of, for the second that I felt it and heard it until it was away in the distance and kind of passed over me, it was probably 10 minutes max. I did have my phone, which, again, if I had my phone, I might not have caught it. You know, it's like, or even if I did have my phone, I might not have caught this experience. And I've kind of had a feeling that I was meant to not have my phone. I very rarely take my phone now when I take the dog. That's why I've got so few pictures of nature anymore. They're mostly the Vortex and stuff, because when I go a walk, I leave the world behind. You know, I'm into nature, I'm in the trees, I'm meditating, I'm breathing. That's my time to escape from all the Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't have my phone. So you need to take my word on this. And please, when you hear this story, and I explain the reasons that I'm talking about it, I'm going to talk a wee bit about the impact that it had on me, and again, you know, the realisation in different ways in terms of the adversity that we face, and the challenges we're going to face in this lifetime. You know, certainly these next few years coming up are going to be interesting, but then again, it's always about what you can do about it. So I'm sitting in meditation, looking at the clouds, looking at the sky, sitting, Murphy's beside me, she's having the time of her life, magic, and then this vibration, and it's just getting louder and louder, and the pulse was hard to explain. It was so close together, it was almost like one sound, but there was a definite gap between it, so it was like a pulsing sound, and at the same time as it was getting louder and louder, it was right over the top of me, and when I say over the top of me, it filled in the entire sky, so as far as I could feel or see, right over the top of me, and it's probably obviously it was moving through me, it was moving past me, but it felt like it covered miles and miles in that direction. So I'm not going to say the entire sky in that direction, but as far as I could see, and then going forward 2, 3, 4, whatever it was, miles over the top, and then in that direction. That's the kind of vastness of it. By the time you get right over the top of me, the way that it sounded, it was like a whooping noise. It was kind of like that, and it was just battering this louder and louder and louder. But the horrible part, and I suppose the scary part for me, was the feelings that I felt in terms of the vibration that was coming off it. And the only way that I got it, the only way that I basically was able to experience this was because I was sitting in silence, in nature, in meditation. If I'd have been sitting in the high street, or sitting having a cup of tea somewhere, or in the house, or on my phone, or listening to music, it was so subtle you would never have felt it. And that was one of the first things I realised, because I looked at the direction that it came right up the kind of Clyde Valley, so the central belt coming from Glasgow, right over the top of me, heading towards Biggar and down towards the borders. And I'm going to wonder how many people actually experienced this. This was Thursday afternoon last week. What day would that be? 9th to the 10th. And it would have been probably 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It'd be interesting to see if anybody had experienced this. And, you know, it came through me, it went through me, I felt it in every single cell of my body. It felt really dirty, if I'm honest, when it went through me. I felt unclean by the time it had done whatever it did. And then, you know, it disappeared away off into the distance, and it was gone. And I sat there, I was almost in like disbelief, because, and this is where, you know, the truther stuff and the conspiracy stuff, and I was all over that. Like, you tell them, I've been there, I've done it all, you know, name it, and I've been down the rabbit hole. I've made sense, I've made peace with it, I understand like who does what and why they do it. I kind of feel I've got a good grip on all that. I don't spend any time there. Anybody who's a truther and comes onto the programme will be found out very, very quickly. It's unacceptable. I'm not interested. I don't care. I'm not interested about Trump's update. Not interested in, you know, whether it's a fucking flat earth or they've never been to the moon or Disney World. I'm not interested. I don't care. Epstein, don't care. Not interested. It's like the whole fucking thing. It's part of the circus. It's part of the zoo. I get it. You know, I get it. Aye, you're probably right. I get it. But at the same time, it's like, what can we do about it? You know, so I understand all of that. And then to sit and experience that, to be in meditation, and to straight away, my first thought was, all right, okay, that wasn't good. It didn't feel good, because I've spoke to a couple of my inner circle about it, and one of them said, like, could it be like something for good, a force for good? And then straight away to my feelings, I'm going, nah, that didn't feel good. Didn't feel good. It felt bad, if I'm being honest. It felt, and because I'm so aware, and this was me on a cleanse last week. I was writing, this was the final day of the cleanse. Thursday, second last day of the cleanse, so I'm so fucking alert, I'm so tuned in, I'm absolutely like gleaming. My vibration, my spiritual condition's as good as it's been in a long time. I'm, you know, the diet and the way that I felt because of no processed food at all, I'm in a good place, and it didn't feel good, you know. And straight away I'm going, right, okay, so what it did for me and what it felt like, a lot of the stuff and the challenges that you fear, in terms of, you know, them, the dark side of the force, you know, whoever it is that controls the world and all that kind of stuff. It's like, so there's levels to them. There's obviously levels to what they can actually do to impact us. And obviously there's a whole COVID thing, and obviously the shots and the vaccines and medicine, and fucking where do you want to start? Again, the real stuff that's happened, and it's negatively affected so many people. The evidence is clear. I think it's safe to say that now, and maybe it wasn't at a point, but it seems that it's okay to talk about that now. But, you know, sitting there and feeling that and wondering what that was, and the realisation, I think the size of the opponent and the adversity, and then what they were capable of. I was sitting there in meditation, there's not a single thing I could have done. What can I do? You know, jump under a tree, you know, like, if I was in the house I might have a wee bit of protection from it, or maybe not, but it became real for me. It felt very real, as if, oh no, you know, all the stuff that you hear about and you think, and you're 99.9% sure, and you've got a kind of feeling that it's a complete truth. When you experience something like that, and you feel whatever that is, and there was no planes in the sky, by this point there was hardly any clouds. By the time it finished and I looked up, whether that helped disperse the clouds, I don't know, but I was sitting looking up in it. There was no aircraft. Some less evolved being may have thought that it was like alien, like out of this world, like a UFO or an ET, something like that. It certainly felt weaponized, almost like military, like intention behind it in terms of what it felt going through me. But I think at the end, as I said, it was just like, oh no, like what is that? Like what? How do you deal with that? It became very, very real, in terms of what the challenge is. And then I'm thinking, and I have been thinking since, like, right, okay, so this uprising and awareness and love and light and grace and goodness of the world, how do we get that, and how do we get the will of God into people? How do we, bring this light into the world? And I'm thinking about this massive uprising that's going on just now of awareness and people waking up, and the way that's been channeled, and all the truthers and all the fucking Tommy Robinson crew and all that whole madness, all the protesting and fighting and all that kind of thing. And if the uprising, the kind of rebel alliance, those who are awake and aware and understand the world isn't the way that it needs to be, and what can you actually do to make it better? That's always been my challenge. That's why I don't protest. It's like silent protest, like Gandhi, in meditation, in union with God. That's the only way I believe, the only chance we've got. But then when you feel something like that and you start to question, right, okay, so what are you up against, and what can they actually do? It just became very real. And obviously you know that, and I know this, I know what you're dealing against. How can you take down, how do you replace that? You can't. It's in this lifetime, you're not going to, unless it's divine intervention. Who knows? And divine intervention will probably come in many different ways, and know the way like power, like force against force. It needs to be power against force. The power of the divine, the inexhaustible power of the divine coming through and taken out, in ways that you probably can't even conceive or imagine from this humanness level of being. So faith in all of that. And it really knocked me for six. One, because of how I felt when it left me. I spent the next 2 hours in the trees. I was grounding like a madman, bare feet, like fucking hands in the trees. I was in meditation. I was greeting at one point. I was letting it go. I was getting out of my system, and I got back up. I was straight in the ice. I had a sauna later on that night. I was on the amp coil. I was cleansing in ways you can't even imagine. And here's the interesting bit. This was the start of the story. So at the same time as all this is going on, that very morning, in fact the day before, the medical medium books that I'd ordered arrived. The 2 books that I'd ordered basically came in the post, and then I'm opening them up, and all I'm seeing is the shots and the antidote and the way to deal with this adversity we face, whether it's the vibrations, the whatever it is, the toxicities, and how we get the stuff out of the system, how we cleanse from the pharmaceutical drugs, how we cleanse for the pharmaceutical machines and the stuff that they put into us, to all that kind of stuff. And I'm looking through this book and I'm going, this is everything I need. And that happened before this experience. And that's really because I'm in alignment. That's really because I'm feeling good. Really because I'm on the programme and I'm tending to myself. And that's very difficult for a lot of people to understand. But that's exactly how it's been. So the point of the story is, it doesn't matter what they do, any of them. And they are going to ramp it up, of course they are. This world and the way that it's going is just insanity just now. But the whole thing is what can you do about it? That's the important part of this. That's what the programme is. This way of living and being, to get it for yourself, to master yourself, to come in no matter where you're at. Learn how to breathe, learn how to switch off your nervous system, learn how to sleep, learn how to relax. Learn how to be aware and not get caught up in the fucking noise. Their noise. To get caught up in the drama. To have the awareness and the intention to step away from it. Why? Because it makes you sick. Having the ability to do that. Change your diet if you need it. What do you need? Is it the medical medium stuff? Are you suffering from adversity? What do you need? Having the ability to do that. Having these tools and techniques that enable you to fight against, not just to fight against, but to be standing in the light. There's certain things you're not going to be able to do in against. Absolutely. It goes to an all-out war. What are you going to do? Nothing. It goes to nuclear war. We're done and dusted. There's nothing you can do about that. And all the protesting and all the fighting and all the stuff that people are trying to do with the best of intentions, it isn't going to work. So, to tend to yourself, to get it for yourself, to master yourself, to be self-aware, to be in this place of alignment, to not get caught up in the human being experience side of things. If I was a truther, going back 8-10 years ago and that happened to me, I would have flipped out. And I'd have been on it like a fucking... I'd have been on it. But the awareness to go, right, okay, so that's just happened, that's just been done, what can I do? What's the antidote? How can I make that better? And it was the shots, the medical medium shots, hitting the shots for 2 or 3 days, on the amp coil, taking back control, making sense of it, right, okay, so I need to up my game now. If that's a capability, whatever that is, and I still don't know what it is, but whatever that is and how it made me feel, I really need to up my game. And me up in my game, it's not like I'm going about with a fucking tinfoil hat on and grounding shoes and grounding sheets, none of that kind of stuff. I'm tending to my spiritual vibration. I'm tending to my spiritual condition. You know, I'm putting more and more time into that which is real. I'm getting more and more time with the divine, like real time with the divine. I've stepped away from the daily group meditations, and I'm now spending my mornings, just the last 3 or 4 mornings, doing it myself and tuning into the group from afar. And it's been interesting, the people that are like, I know you were there, I could feel you're in this morning. And again, their level of awareness and what's coming through me and how it's evolving all the time, to be able to do it in that way, and people are still sitting in the silence and still getting the benefit better, because I'm now in a different way and I'm just acting as the preceptor, you know, to the Divine Master and allowing it to come through me, tapping into the field and the power of my intention. When I'm not sitting looking at the computer, when I'm not working, you know, in terms of like, is the sound okay, the levels okay, is that playlist going to run out, when's it going to? When you don't have to do any of that, and I just sit in silent meditation, I tune into God and allow it to come through me, you know, through Babaji, through the Divine Master, and I basically, by the power of my intention, to bring that into the group. The benefits, not just for myself, and the stuff that's coming through me, you know, the information and the inspiration that I'm getting by just being selfish and being on the program, and then how so many other people are already benefiting in ways a lot of them don't even know, you know. So again, that's the power, and tending to that, you know, really raising the bar for that, like getting my shit together, you know, in terms of the diet and, you know, all the processed foods, they're all gone. I had a couple of bits of bread. I'm a bread fiend, I love bread. I had a couple of bits of bread on the weekend. Once the diet was done, I was back on the bread for a couple of days. In fact, one day I had it and I was like, fuck this. And it's the best of bread. It was killing my stomach, just bagged up and slows down your bowels and just, feeling sluggish. You know, so raising all of that, you know, getting that back up to, you know, where it needs to be, you know, and how far I can take that. The timing for me just now is everything, because I'm really ready to kind of kick on with it and looking forward to winter. And there's so much work to get done, you know, so much work for me to get done within this, you know, the desire to help people, the desire to get this information out there, to keep documenting, especially when no many people are getting it. There's somebody who I know really well just now who's became really famous, and watching all the kudos that they're getting, and how easy the journey has become for them because of how it's feeding them. And this morning I was sitting in meditation, I'm going, why am I doing this? You know, I get so little from it, you know, in terms of the feedback and the people that get around about it, and from that level of consciousness, from that lower level, and, you know, what it provides in the world for me. And I'm thinking at the same time, oh, like, this is God's work. This is my work. I'm doing this for me. You know, I need to do this. My work is to leave this and document it and leave it behind, so that people, at some point when the timing is right for them, when the timing is maybe right for you, to get around about it and go, right, what is this? You know, who is this for? Is this for me? And then all the stuff I've just spoke about, if you're in any of these places, if you're seeking, if you're looking, if you want to expand, if you want to get it, if you want to understand, you know, yourself, you want to learn yourself, to know yourself, that journey of self-discovery, that's what I believe this lifetime should be all about. So for me in this work, what I'm doing, I'm working for the divine. And I'm learning new ways of how I can do both. How I can be in this world, be the human being, be the dad, you know, be the husband, and all of that, you know, which is just an absolute blessing. It was my wife's birthday yesterday. 34 years we've been together. She was 21 when I met her. You can do the math. And just watching her yesterday, just an appreciator, like only goodness. Everything she does, she brings light to. You know, and my Waynes as well, 24 and 21. You know, and being with the family last night and being with them, you know, being with her all day yesterday for her birthday, and just celebrating the light and the goodness that's in her. You know, and the way you get to do that is when you switch off the stress. I couldn't do that for a long time. I was still present, but you're not there. You know, but when you actually manage and switch off the nervous system, when you become aware, that's why I've got probably 70,000 photographs, because I've captured every single fucking moment. I'm in hardly any of them, but when I look at them, I can remember them. I can remember who was there, and I can remember a lot of times the event and the colours and the sounds and the smells will come back, and some of the pictures I see with my mum. There was one for Jill's birthday. One of the things that Eve did, she got loads of old photographs, like real photographs, not just the digital stuff, and they've stopped over the last 20 years, which is unfortunate. Obviously, you've got them in digital form, but the ones you used to get kind of printed out, when you look back at them, you talk about a picture being worth a million words or 1,000 words. There's one when me and Jill just met, we're on holiday in Tenerife, and you can just see her, and I was like, oh my God, man, we were Waynes. But the amount of things, the memories and the feelings, the emotions, and just seeing the goodness in both of us, you know, just that light and where we were at that stage of relationship, and Just so much to be grateful for, and that comes through awareness. To be aware. If you're unaware and you're basically in this locked in survival state and you're not sleeping good, and the first thing you do when you wake up is, you're either popping the pills, you're rattling the coffee, or whatever it is, the state changers to enable you to make your way through the day. So many people miss so much, just through ignorance, because they don't know. So the awareness that this brings, the awareness to kind of savour your life, to soak in your life experience as you're going through it, the ability to capture it, not just in pictures, which is great, but to actually be there and be present. Yesterday was all about that for me, just being present and just watching her and just being so fucking grateful, for having her in my life for all these years. And what she does, not just for me, but how she lights up the world, and with the presence and, what she brings to it. Just absolutely fantastic, so much to celebrate. All is well, all is good. It's all about, the divine work, helping people. It's all about, taking back control, taking back your power, fulfilling your potential. And if you're called, if you're in a place where things aren't quite where you would like to be, there's so many bits to this, and that's why I do believe it's for everybody, from just basic breath work to switching off your anxiety, learn how to sleep a wee bit better, all the way up to, enlightenment. How do you experience the divinity that's inside you? And then how do you, once you get that, because once you achieve that, you think that was it, but it isn't. Then you get to come back, and it becomes harder, I think, and because you're always trying to be there. You would love to be there all the time, and then the knowledge that you're going to be there when you snuff it, but for this time you're meant to be a human being for whatever reason God decided, and you chose to be here, and then to make your way in both worlds, in this world but not of it, the human being and all the stuff that comes with that, but also the spiritual being and all the stuff that comes with that, and then you add the two there together, how you navigate your way through this lifetime, and get whatever it is you came to get. And that's what it's all about, so I do believe it's for everybody, but depending on what you need and where you're at, and what requirements specific to you, then it'll depend, whether it's for you or not, but for those of us that are living it, those of us that are run about it, this community, the programme, the group and the people that I'm surrounded by, and the goodness that's in so many, I'm just excited, and I'm saying that every week, just now, I'm genuinely excited for where it's going to go. There's more and more people starting to find freedom, and the bigger picture in terms of how it ends up and how it, part that I'm going to play within that as well, in our family, gelling my wains, and there's massive changes coming in so many different fronts. I can feel it, so excited for all of that, so number 66, who is this for? I believe it's for everybody. It just depends on where you're at, but we're a big enough reason, a big enough why, then you too may be drawn into the vortex, and then hopefully you stick around about it long enough and you start to experience the benefits that so many are getting. That's my wish for everybody. Freedom for all, the direct experience. Freedom for me is the direct experience of the divinity that you carry inside you. The rest of it is an illusion, to really know the divine, to know God, and then to bring it back and how to live in that way. That's what it's all about. Peace out, God bless, thanks for tuning in, and bye for now.